Hi, everybody. So, tonight or today morning, depending on where you are, starting this broadcast a little bit different from usual because of a little tribute I just wanted to make. Uh, Unfortunately, this last week, uh, exactly 4 days ago, we lost two very special members of our team um, to the well known pandemic. And I just want to take a minute to thank them for everything that they have been to this team. So I don't believe in afterlife and all that, but I just want to say, Kat and Michelle, we'll miss you a lot. You've been just really amazing people in team. You've been amazing women. You've been friends to all of us. And this was just too soon. And I just wanted to dedicate this episode to you. We love you. And yeah, that's it. And we'll just begin the show in your memory.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Women Unleashed here on Dramaniac TV. I am your co-host, Alicia Couri, the Red Carpet CEO.
I needed that smile, so thank you. And I am Szebastian Onne, the Almost Naked CEO. And this is, I think, episode 9. I don't know. It is some episode of Women Unleashed season 4.
All we know is we're in season 4. That's all we know. That's all we can guarantee right here.
That's all we know, and that's more than enough.
That's it.
And yeah, and today's guest is really an amazing story, an amazing person. And since we connected, I've spoken to her a couple of times, and it's just every single time I've had any conversation with her, the biggest thing I love about her is the acceptance. We are, just like you and me, we have some things common, but some things very, very, very different. And but what I love is every single time she said, I don't care what you believe in. I care in your character and your action and your kindness. And that's such a beautiful thing. And you just feels at ease with her despite being, we just pulls apart in many ways.
She is a remarkable person, and she's been through an incredible journey. And I'm so excited to be able to share because I believe that it's going to help heal some people. It's going to bring light. And I'm looking forward to speaking. And just on a personal note, we're going to try really hard not to get confused here because my name is Alicia and her name is Aleechea. And so
Well, the good thing is our banner will show the name, so that will be one good thing. But it will be hard for me to make sure that which one am I talking to.
We're going to try not to get confused up in here. So as soon as we bring her up,
I'll put it this way: today I need some laughter, so this is a perfect episode for me for this confusion.
So we're gonna have some fun tonight, and we're gonna learn some things, and we're gonna go a little deeper than the surface, but we don't have a lot of time. We only have 45 minutes, so we're gonna try to get through as much as we can in that time that we have tonight. So without any additional,
let's play a little intro video for her, and then we'll bring
her up. Go right ahead.
My name is Reverend Aleechea Pitts. I am founder of Pauline Ministries, 4-time author, Christian speaker, and mentor. You are looking at someone who went from ex-gay to ordained minister, from welfare mother to working for social services. Well, you're looking at a person who was a broken vessel to a useful vessel, being molested at the ages of 7, 11, and 14, held at gunpoint, experiencing a lot of rejection. And if you want to learn more, then you have to watch Women Unleashed on Dream Maniac TV. This is Reverend Aleechea Pitts, and you're watching Dream Maniac TV. Hold on, I got to start again.
Okay.
From a broken vessel to a useful vessel. I don't know.
And what
There she is. Yeah, yeah.
Technology is, I learn something new about technology every single time. And I just realized this video would just not stop. But there we go. And there is Alicia. Alicia and Alicia.
Alicia and Alicia. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the show. We'll just jump right in. So you talked about being molested as a child. So when did that happen, and how did it happen for you?
Well, I was molested at the ages of 7, 11, and 14. And the first molestation took place. It was one of my cousin's boyfriends. She had left and went to go do something, and he had started fondling me. And another time was one of my cousins who babysat me. And then the last time was when I had went down south for 6 months. I was away from my mom. I went down south for 6 months with an evangelist down there. And that's where I was also not only molested, but held at gunpoint at the age of 14.
Wow. So who held you at gunpoint? Was it during the molestation, or was it a separate incident?
It kind of happened all in the same time frame. What ended up happening was this man was performing oral sex on me, and his wife came in and called him.
Oh my God.
And of course, by her going off, he ends up holding us all hostage in the house with a gun with the lights off.
Must have been horribly terrified.
Yeah, because I was away from home. I was in Alabama at that time.
Wow. Yeah. And these were people that you knew?
Well, I knew them through the person that I was down there with, which was the wife was related to the evangelist. So it was like a brother-in-law of this individual.
Wow.
I just am so amazed. Like,
Right.
you say seven, I think you said 7, 12, and
11.
14, 7, 11, and
Mhm.
14. Like, again and again and again, it must have taken a huge toll on you as a child, the confusion and everything else that happened to you.
It did, because as a child you can't even really fathom all what has happened to you until you
Right.
get older.
You can't
And
put it into
You don't,
context.
yeah,
right,
it doesn't
you
make
can't
sense.
process
Yeah.
it all. Yeah, you can't process it all. And so this is where the suicide ideation comes in, the low self-esteem, and just different things of that nature. And mind you, I held on to that until the last molestation, and that's when I finally told my mom.
Wow.
The molestation, one of the molestations, my brother caught my mom's boyfriend fondling me.
Wow.
Oh.
And when my brother came in, the offender slung him in the closet. And I asked my brother, I said, please don't tell mommy.
He
I
was
said,
about
please
4
don't.
years old.
Huh?
He was about 4 years old at the time.
Yeah. And I was like, please don't tell mommy. And he didn't say anything. And at that time, this particular man that was with my mom, he was at that time, they didn't have a word for it, but he was committing domestic violence against my mom. And so I'm like, okay, he beating up on my mom. My mom not going to be able to help me. And here it is again, the process of a child's mind, because I could remember watching movies where things had happened to children. But the thing that stuck in my mind as a child at that time was, oh, if I tell, something's going to happen to my mom. I grabbed a hold of that part, but didn't grasp the other part of, well, you need to tell so this person can be dealt with.
So
Right.
not only you're going through your own trauma, you're also scared for your mother, and you just, it's like, and you're so little to try and
Mhm.
compound all that, understand all that.
Yes.
In it must have, I just dread to say, but it must have stuck with you for a long time before you actually sort of let it go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you got to remember, you're talking about all of these years from the age of 7 of me holding this all in.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got in high school, around 10th grade, now I'm dealing with suicide ideation because I'm being bullied in school. I'm not being accepted in school, being rejected, and all these different things. And so then this is where the suicide starts taking place, where I'm trying to walk in front of cars, hoping they ain't paying no attention to me, so they'll hit me, or popping pills. And I remember, I guess I must have told a teacher or something, and then they went and told a guidance counselor. And
Right.
that's when I started going to counseling. But when I went to the counseling, we never even dealt with the issue.
Yeah.
They just asked about, how were your grades in school or whatever. And so as I got older, I knew I wanted to be married. And I said, look, I don't want to bring this into a marriage. It's
Right.
not fair. It's not going to be fair to my husband to inflict this on him. And he had nothing to do with what happened to me. And
Right.
so I knew, I wanted, once I got
Deal with
married,
it.
I knew I wanted to be whole in the marriage, and not bring that baggage into the marriage. And so this is where I had to turn to God to, in a sense, hash out my own demons and get the healing that I needed. Because the truth
Right.
of the matter was, when I went to the guidance counselor who was supposed to help me, they couldn't help me. And so at that point, it was
Yeah.
just in God. Yeah.
I just
Well,
find it incredibly amazing that even in the counseling, they didn't even touch, they didn't go into the issue. They're
well,
supposed to
that's the
help
thing,
you.
because it's a school counselor, it's a guidance counselor. They're not mental health or therapists. They're there to
Right.
guide your career, basically your
Mhm.
school career. So they're really asking about, that's why they're asking about your grades and
Yeah.
your attendance and all those things. They're not equipped to
But really,
really.
school needs better,
They
resources
do. They
for
do.
children.
So let's
So
move into the next segment. So I just want to remind everyone that you are watching Women Unleashed, season 4, episode 9. Our producer told us it's episode 9. here on React TV. And our guest today is Reverend Aleechea Pitts.
And guys, she's emphasizing Alicia because she is Alicia, and I am trying to get Alicia
Keep it all
and Alicia
straight.
right.
One thing you're trying to keep straight tonight is the name.
That's
The one
straight is what I'm not.
Exactly. So we talked about your childhood trauma and touched a little bit on the bullying and the suicide attempts. I wanna really in this next segment, as we're talking about, like you said, you were a broken vessel. What was that concept like? How old were you, and what did that mean to you? A broken vessel.
Damaged because of what had happened to me. I knew my family loved me, but I always was looking for that outside acceptance. And even to go back, even to deal with the molestation aspect, there was someone that I admired, and I had, was talking to them about what had happened to me, and they were so insensitive. Now, mind you, I am a child. I'm 14 years old at this time. And they had the nerve to say to me, "What are you doing wearing a sign on your back to say molest me?" And in my mind, and as a child, I'm like, I didn't ask that. I didn't ask these people to do these things to me. But what I realized as getting older.
Sorry. Who said that to you? I'm a little bit shocked. Who said that to you?
Yeah, it was a close person that I admired said that to me. Yeah.
Wow. So the person you're looking up to and going for support is actually kind of
blaming you
or rejecting the very idea that you went through something traumatic. Wow.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine how you felt at that moment.
Yeah, because I'm like, I didn't ask this to happen to me, but I also realized too that once someone has been violated, then there could be a stigma, on the individual because they have been a victim. So it's kind of like predators, right? They know how to search out who's vulnerable or who they could possibly get away with committing that offense against. And and that happened to me, and I was like, really? Like, I was a little jacked up from there. And then it was
more where the suicide thoughts came from. Because if you don't believe me, if you're accusing me, if you're blaming me, then everybody else in my life is going to see me as trash, and they're going to see me as not worthy or as worthless.
The problem
child.
And breaks the confidence of the child. Right? It just damages them.
Yeah. So I had, like I said, as a child, and like you said, you carry this stuff over for years because in the midst of all of that, being rejected, being picked on, bullied and stuff all in school, on top of the molestation. And that's why I always tell people, I know how I felt being molested. I can't even imagine how somebody feels being raped. And so, like you said, it took years. You're talking about, I really didn't get quite straight till maybe like my mid-20s.
That's what was my next question. It's like, when did you start really, because you felt broken, but when did you start making that shift, making that turnaround for yourself?
Basically doing the inner work on me.
It was in your mid-20s.
Yeah, in my mid-20s, just basically doing the work in me because a lot of times we are looking on the outside of ourselves for people to help us, but what we need is already on the inside of us. And it just took me a while to really number one, like Alicia for who she is, and then love Alicia for who she is. Like, I had to come to a point where, hey, you know what? I'm not a bad person. And so whoever's going to come in my life, they're either going to love me for who I am, or you can keep it moving, and that's the resolve that I really made within myself. Like, look, I know I'm not no bad person. So whoever come in my life, they're going to accept me for who I am, and not try to change me. Because there was times, you know, I went through the whole line of trying to buy friendships and all that kind of stuff, you know, still seeking that outside acceptance, knowing my family loved me, but still looking for that outside validation. That's what it was. The outside validation to vindicate me.
And that's what happens, you know, when you go through so much and you don't get the right support, you try and find it elsewhere, because you just want to be sure that you're okay, and you know somebody loves you, somebody cares for you, which kind of brings me to another question as well. You know, in your introduction you said you know, ex-gay, so I want to just understand a little bit about that as well. What phase of your life you went through that, and you know what really happened with you, and what changed, you know, what exactly was your experience?
Okay, well, in regards to that, as I would say, I could remember, let's say around 14, where my attraction for women was stronger than men. I was attracted to men, but my attraction for women was greater. And I could remember people that I would be attracted to. I would write these letters, and I would write them in a way that you could take it either or, but more than likely people were not thinking in their mind. Right.
You're trying to be in a safe zone.
Yes.
Because you didn't want rejection again.
Yes. And so when I turned 19, I always say it like this: it was curiosity killed the cat. And that's pretty much how I started going into the gay lifestyle. And at one point in time, it was like there was an inner struggle because of my upbringing and what I knew about God and what I knew about the Word of God. And so at one point in time when I was in the lifestyle, I kept saying, if God don't bring me out of this, it's just not going to happen. And how I end up coming out of the lifestyle, and I knew God was done. Well, let me backtrack. I went to a church service, and this woman prophesied to me, and God allowed me to discern what people in the church was discerning what she meant, but I knew what it meant. And the prophecy she gave me, the people thought I had a man and a man on the side. But I knew what it meant. And I said, I can't keep coming to church and people see what I'm in. I gotta get myself together. But I believe God allowed it to happen because God knew I wanted help. But I was like, I'm not going to people because they're going to start treating me funny. They're going to be acting all funny and all that kind of carrying on. So I believe God allowed her to see what I was in because I wouldn't have went to nobody else. And God, in different phases, because it was not something that happened overnight when I came out of the lifestyle. It was a process, and we're talking about years of process. But how I knew I was being delivered was because I would be in this relationship and I wasn't getting the gratification anymore. And it was kind of this thing like, okay, what am I here for? And I remember the last relationship I was in, I said to God, I said, God, if this don't work, I'm done. And it wasn't something bad that had happened. It was just that I was being delivered, because it was like every time I would go back, it was just like, okay, it doesn't even feel the same. Yeah. It didn't feel no more gratification, and I've been laser focused ever since.
I have a question, but we want to take some comments. I have a question about a couple of things you said, but let's take some comments first. And Margarita says, "Praise God, breakthrough." Wow, I'm crying for you, High Tech Mother. Hi, High Tech Mother says on YouTube. Sanjit says, watching live from Australia.
Amen.
Margarita said, a must to work on yourself. Only then do we realize how awesome you are. We are, yes. CFW organization says you are so brave and courageous for sharing. Awesome interview. Margarita says have to love yourself. Absolutely, Margarita. Yolanda says strong woman of power carrying a message. Your test is now your testimony. Thank you, Yolanda. High Tech Mother says you are so powerful despite all that.
Amen.
And CFW organization says many women suffer in silence of their pain. Today, I believe your story will help set so many of them free. Margarita says sharing your pain, share freedom and strength God provides.
Amen.
Yeah. Thanks, Doc. Thanks, Doc. Process is inevitable. Yes, Margarita, it sure is. CFW free indeed.
Amen.
So I had a question about you said gay lifestyle several times. You were in a gay lifestyle. So do you consider yourself gay or experimenting? Was it more of an experimental situation, or did you really consider
Well, let
yourself
me put it
at
this
that time
way.
gay?
In the beginning, well, let me put it this way. When I was in the lifestyle, I never labeled myself.
Right.
I never labeled myself. But the truth of the matter was I was a lesbian at that point, operating, as a lesbian at that point.
Right.
But I just never labeled myself as such.
And then the second thing I wanted to ask, because you said earlier in the first segment that you didn't want your husband, you didn't want to be a broken, bringing that into a marriage, being that broken person, being molested as a child and all that, bringing that into a marriage. At what point did you have that kind of vision for your marriage? Was it prior to living in a lesbian lifestyle, or was it post, like when you came out and you started thinking, well, I want to get married, have children, blah, blah, blah?
It was prior to. It was prior to.
So there was a disconnect because you're thinking, I'm going to have a husband, but I'm attracted to women.
But you're in a lesbian relationship.
Yeah.
And, I actually want to ask something. I'm glad that Alicia said that. Do you think at that time you felt, was it attraction, or was it still that reaching out for love just from anywhere you could get that value? Did you ever wonder if it was more about validation and less about actual orientation?
I think it was more so for the companionship, because we,
Right.
being in the lifestyle and then being connected to people in the lifestyle, a lot of times people have this falsehood that when someone is gay, they want everybody that they see of the same sex,
Right.
which we know, that stereotype. And so for me, it was when I was there, it was more of companionship more than anything. And here it is again, just dealing with that outside acceptance. Really, just dealing with that outside.
And did you think the connection of men molesting you had anything to do with that? Like you were just staying away from?
I'm pretty sure it probably did. But when I got pregnant with my daughter, I made a vow to God. And the vow was I wasn't going to have sex with a man until I got married. And
it took the power back into your hands.
Yeah, and I kept that vow even when I was dating women. No women ever penetrated me or anything. So like I said, I knew in the back, it was just something that I went through, because I knew in the back of my mind, I knew I knew I was never going to go down the aisle with a woman or none of that. So I think it was just something that I had to go through. And I believe I had to go through it because here I am being transparent, where you have people that have been in the lifestyle and they disassociate themselves from ever being in it. So I believe God allowed me to do it because he knew that I will be bold and transparent for him.
Well, that is so interesting. And, coming from me, a homosexual non-binary person, the way I see it, it's just such a different angle of how things are. But we'll talk more about that. And I especially want to talk about, despite everything you are, everything you have been, and, the rejection you have faced, the ex-gay lifestyle you talk about, all the confusions and all that, you still are a very, very accepting person, even of, I am, as I said, non-binary homosexual, and I've seen you actually write about and speak about, acceptance. So we'll talk about that right in a minute after the break. So we'll be back in a second.
Welcome back, everybody, to
I'm
Women
struggling
Unleashed.
to remove the banner.
Season 4, episode 9 here on Dramaniac TV. Yes,
We're doing the episode numbers today.
Season 4, episode 9. Now that I have it, now that I've been told what it is, I can say it. Margarita says you have to work through your baggage before you can truly enjoy your journey. Thank you, Margarita. So we are talking to Aleechea Pitts, Reverend Aleechea Pitts, and walking through some of the journey, as you said, Margarita. Yes, she is a survivor. Walking through some of that journey. And the thing is, everybody's journey is heal, set free, survivor. Yes, Donna. Everybody's journey is different. Transparency is liberating. And the great news is the love was there, and it was always there for you. So you just had to know where to access that love. And so in this segment, we're going to talk about a useful vessel that you are now. And so what transformed you from suicide tendency, living a lifestyle you didn't really want to be in, searching for love in all the wrong places, overcoming abuse and molestation, being held at gunpoint? What was that turning point for you?
God. God.
Literally.
Literally God. I tell people all the time when people give me accolades and different things of that nature, and I believe you even seen me type it, I am who I am by the grace of God. It's no goodness of my own, but it is by God's grace that I am where I am today. And he has allowed so many doors to be a testimony to him and to share my story. And there's a scripture that says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony.
Absolutely.
And so by sharing my story, especially in the very beginning of my transformation, it is very empowering. It strengthens you. The more you tell it, it strengthens you. And I can remember being in church in that process of my deliverance, being fearful of people really knowing what my story was.
What happened?
And so part of me being transparent took the power out of people's hands who may thought they would have had one up on me to either try to break relationships, to say, oh, well, she used to like women, all that kind of stuff. So when I began to, nobody can tell your story better than you can tell your story. And
I love that, because I love, how you said that you took the power in your hand, which actually brings me to the fact, how did, of course, at some point you would have spoken to your husband about what happened and how it all happened and everything. So what kind of reaction did he have, and what impact did it have on your, relationship, and especially when you decided that I'm going to start telling my story?
Well, Szebastian, I've never been married. But in the times that I did date men, I was very upfront and forthcoming with them, even in regards to my relationship with women. And needless to say, it was not, it didn't hinder anything. Right. And I've always been one where I'm straight, no chaser. I lay everything out on the table.
Right.
Because you don't want something to come back and to haunt you. Even in dealing in your relationships, people to me, when you withhold information, you're lying. You're still lying, because if you withhold information, you're not giving that person that opportunity to really to decide, make a decision for themselves whether they want to be in a relationship with you or not. So I've always was upfront about the molestation and me dealing with women, so that way the man could have his choice of whether he wanted to choose to deal or not to deal.
So is that what you speak about, or correct me? You have mentioned in our conversations as well as in the intro video as well about rejections. What rejections are you talking about, and how did you overcome those rejections?
Well, the rejections, I believe, it was a lot for our school.
Right.
I always say it like this: I was a quote unquote ugly duckling who turned into a beautiful swan.
Well, I'll take the beautiful swan, because you are a beautiful person.
Because kids can be cruel, and
Yeah.
a lot of times kids don't have filter. They just say what comes to their mind without worrying about what the result of that could be. Because now you have this kind of bullying. Now kids are killing themselves over it. So thank God
Right.
I survived it, in my time. But now they have taken it up to a whole nother level,
Cyberbullying.
cyberbullying.
Yep.
Yeah, and all that kind of carrying on. So a lot of it was definitely in school, being picked on, called teacher's pet, even physical abuse in school, where boys hit me in the back of the neck with rulers and all this kind of stuff.
Wow.
So that's really where a lot of the rejection took place, was in school.
So how are you using your story and your experiences now to empower other women, other children, and families?
Mentorship. I do mentorship. There are women any between the ages of 40 to late 60s that contacts me to mentor them. And I don't want to say the funny or the crazy part about it is that these women that have reached out to me really did not know who I was. But what they would say is, it seems like I can talk to you. You seem approachable, and I need help in certain areas. And so these women just would reach out to me out of the blue. I am a police chaplain, so I work with the police department, not with the people that are incarcerated, but with the actual officers. I'm also a lead chaplain for a high school, so I'm making myself available to students. If they don't want to talk to the teachers, if they don't want to go to the guidance counselor, I make myself available. Same thing, staff chaplain for New Jersey Department of Corrections. And here again, we are not there for the inmates, but we are there for the correctional officers. And honestly, I am a servant. I tell people all the time, many gifts, much responsibility. So I'm a firm believer, whatever my hand find to do, I do it with all my might. And I just love helping people. I work in social services in the Medicaid unit. So here it is again, constantly dealing with the public and different things of that nature. And I just believe it's just something God put in me, because let's keep it real. Everybody, when you're dealing with ministry and you're dealing with community, you have to love people, because if you don't love people, it's going to be a problem. So you have to have a love for people, and
some patience.
Definitely patience, because there are people that will rub you the wrong way, and you still have to be able to treat them in all fairness, and then, like I was sharing with Szebastian earlier, that I have to look at myself. And I think if we would just practice empathy and just put ourselves in other people's shoes, then we won't be so judgmental. Put yourself in another person's shoe. Whereas if it was you, how would you want people to entreat you?
And what I actually love is that you actually said to me, when I was discussing this and I was telling you that, are you okay with who I am? And you said, it's not who you believe in, but it's your character and action that matters to me, and that's what I love about. And so what is beautiful to me is, having gone through everything you've gone through, you continue to be loving, to be accepting, and not putting labels or finding reasons to filter people, but just accept them as they are.
Mhm.
Right.
And,
Alicia,
and,
we
and
have some.
We
Sorry,
have
go ahead.
we have some comments. Let me just take
Sure.
a few comments real quick. Margarita says she breaks down the wall of being profiled, God and his grace. Say that, CFW organization. And CFW organization says, it is my hope that more women and men will be encouraged to come forth and share their stories so that we can save the generations that are to come and break the cycle of silence. Silence and violence.
Oh, yeah.
Yolanda says, amen and amen. We are God's handiwork, created in his image to do good works. Your story is setting someone else free right now. Power. Thanks, Doc. Margarita says, be a vessel. That means help others. It's all, it's all, not just one.
Amen.
It's about all, not just one. Sorry.
And so I just think if we would just put ourselves like that, and I always say it like this, it's a soul worth saving. I don't care, because let's keep it real. There are some things that we have done. Some of us, we don't even care to repeat what we have done, but God has not written us off. So how can we write anybody else off?
Yeah.
And so that's the mindset that if we want to make this world a better place, it's going to take love. I have a friend of mine. She has a saying: "Love is the cure."
Lots of it.
At the end of the day, if we're truly loving, we're not loving based on condition. When we love based on condition, I'm loving you for what you could do for me. But if you don't do nothing for me, guess what? I'm still love you. You know what I mean? And that's what Christ does for us, that in spite of our idiosyncrasies and how jacked up we may be, there's nothing that we could do that will make God stop loving us.
But the thing is, all of us are jacked up in some way or the other. So my level of crazy may not be the same level of crazy you got, but we all crazy in some way or the other.
Absolutely are. And your words remind me of a friend Alicia and I have in common, Cindy Constable. She always says love is always the answer. So that's really it. Even from the conversations you and I had, that is what I find beautiful, that you look at people and things and events from love. I mean, I can't find a better analogy the way you put yourself: broken vessel changing into a useful vessel, and working from love. So even though I may not believe in what you believe in, I find the common ground, love, which is so as you and I were talking, it's not about disputing about the differences, but finding the common ground.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
You are just a beautiful person.
Amen. To God be the glory. And with that being said, I believe it's not even my love, it's the love he put in me, because our love can be limited, but Christ's love will compel you. Let me tell you, there's been times I call myself writing off people. I'm done with you, this, that, and the third. But then I would find myself loving them, because Christ's love will compel you. It will force you to go beyond what you say what your mouth say. And so it's how God put it in me. It's how he put it.
That's that agape love.
Yes.
So let me just read a couple more comments as we're coming to a close to this session. Yolanda says, to whom much is given, much is expected. Keep transforming those lives and minds. That is where the fight starts. You are an overcomer.
Amen.
And Celeste, thank you, Pastor Reverend Aleechea Pitts, for being a consistent light in a very dark world.
Blessings, Pastor.
Yeah, Margarita says no one is beyond being helped.
Amen.
Or love. It's not about you, it's about them. Absolutely, Margarita. Yes. So as Szebastian comes back in, we really, this was really great. I want to just ask you for maybe one piece of advice that you can give someone, maybe someone who has been molested as an adult now and it's still kind of eating away at them or hurting them in some way, something that you can share with them, something practical that they can start that inner process that you went through. If there's any advice that you can give them as we're wrapping up.
Well, the first thing I would start with a question, and that question is, do they want to be made whole? Because a lot of times some people stay stuck because it allows them to continue to behave the way they behave. They lean on that as an excuse. So my first question would be, do they really want to be made whole? Because at the end of the day, you have to be honest with yourself. I've counseled people where, as we said earlier about people playing the victim card. When do you stop being a victim and go to being a victor? And so a lot of times, there's some counseling that really needs to happen, because you will have people that have went through trauma and they really don't want to solve the problem. They're going to go to whoever hears, because they want that sympathy. The sympathy makes them feel good. And so they don't want to get rid of the problem, because guess what? They get rid of the problem, they won't receive the sympathy anymore. And so, so the question would be, do you want to be made whole? That's number one. And when you're honest with yourself, then look for someone that can help you go through that process, because a lot of it, there's some things that's going to have to be let go. You're going to have to forgive, right? You got to work through all of those different processes. But the first and most important thing is being honest with yourself as to whether you want to be healed completely or not. And then if you really want to be healed, as I always tell people, motivation will move you to action, right? We got a lot of people that's inspired. You got a whole lot of people that's inspired by this, that's going to be inspired by this. But guess what? They're not going to do anything. They stay at inspiration. But if you have been motivated, then you'll move to action. You'll do something. Whether you go seek help, you'll get a counselor. If they have a pastor to help them through that process, and hey, they can talk to me if need be. You know, I'm an open book.
Should be a resolution.
Speaking of books, Szebastian had a question.
Speaking of books, so you have actually written a few. So tell us a little bit about your books real quickly. We got to wrap up, I know, but if you can quickly tell us a little bit about your books.
Sure. The first book, actually, which the individual should start with, is Let It Go for Your Sake, Forgive. There's Another Way to Live. Keep Going Back to Love. I share some of my personal stories in there. And it's not only about forgiving others, but forgiving yourself. It is a book that I don't preach get over it, but help you to process what forgiveness is and what it is not. The second book, Homosexuality is In, Heterosexuals Relax. It is a book that is going to educate the church and the heterosexual on how to love the homosexual, and also helping those that are in the homosexual lifestyle that are looking to come out of the lifestyle, helping them to transition out of that lifestyle by giving them the process on how to come out of the lifestyle.
All right. And can people find these books on Amazon, or where do they find
it is available on Amazon, but they can go straight to my website, AliciaPitts.com, and get either book or both.
All right. Well, it was such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You on. Looking forward to seeing you again on Dramaniac TV.
Yeah.
Make sure to, put yourself.
Just hang out in the green room.
Right now, Alicia.
Yeah.
That's got me on lockdown.
Exactly. So just hang out in the green room for us. We'll just wrap up the show and we'll see you in a minute.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, wow, that was great. And
she is full of energy and positive energy, and and that's it. That's what I like. Different yet accepting. there's no judgment, no, restrictions or boundaries per se. And that's what I like every conversation I've had with her, it just lifted me up in a different way, despite knowing we are so different in our views. And we could, that's what she and I said, like we could sit here and dispute and argue and debate,
But why?
but
It's
why
not
don't we just
productive.
love instead?
That's not productive. It doesn't get you anywhere. So
Exactly.
I learned something about 30 years ago that said a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. So I choose not to try to debate someone who has a different opinion of me. Let me just try to understand where you're coming from, so there's no argument. Yeah. So
and
anyway,
it also helps to sort of maybe find a resolution if you try and understand others.
Absolutely. Well, this is the end of just another episode of Women Unleashed here on Dramaniac TV. Sorry?
No, I'm just trying to lip read with you. Sorry.
On Dramaniac TV. I am your co-host, Alicia Couri, signing off.
And I'm Szebastian Onne, and we'll see you next time. Same back channel, same back time, and everything else. So until next, dream big and make it happen.
Make it happen. Good night.